All right, we have what's shaping up to be another very exciting captain's pick debate when it comes to the Ryder Cup teams. And of course, this could mean big time redemption for Keegan Bradley. Is he going to end up putting himself on the team or not? But very similar to what we saw with Keegan just 2 years ago, where he got overstepped. There's the possibility of that happening, and now even with Keegan's the one who's calling the shots. There are some guys who are in that top 12 right now as we stand, as we just finished up the regular season. There are some guys who just might not make the team because looking further down the list, we are seeing some guys making waves, including Cameron Young, who just jumped up 4 spots and is now in the mix, in the discussion because of his big win at the Wyndham. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a full look at this, where all of these Ryder Cup standings stand at the moment with only 2 events left for these guys to qualify points. There are, of course, some guys who are locked in, like Scotty Scheffler. I feel like he was locked in when he teed it up for the first tournament of the year, but there are some guys in there who couldn't be in that conversation, and whether or not that's going to create some controversy and debate. So we'll look through them one by one, see who's on the bubble, see who might be those kind of like long shot sleepers who might sneak in at that last second. Lots to go over. First, of course, we want to thank this week's sponsor, Titleist. And guys, we're excited to share some exclusive opportunities from Team Titleist, but to be part of the team, you have to join Team Titleist. The best part about it is it's 100% free to do. Just go to Titleist.com/Team Titleist to join the team with us. And what it does is it gives you access to opportunities like prototype testing. That's when you see those white boxes come in the mail every once in a while. Guys get to be some of the first to test out brand new balls because Titleist does value the feedback of its team. So you have that. They've also got some exciting trips that they plan throughout the year. All a lot of exciting stuff to be a part of. But again, to do it, you got to join Team Titleist. So go to Titleist.com/Team Titleist, get signed up. It's free. It's a no-brainer, and it is the place to be. So go and check that out. Now, Mike, taking a kind of a high up look at this, I think obviously the guys right now who are in those 6, I don't see a lot of shuffling at the very top here. I either way, one way or another, even if a guy moves down to 7th and somebody comes up to 6, like we could see that with Justin Thomas. If Justin Thomas right now, I think he's on the team any way you look at it,
Sure.
but sitting at 7th, right in striking distance of that locked in picks. And I kind of feel like, because he was so directly a part of the controversy just 2 years ago where he got picked for the team, a lot of people said he wasn't in form, he wasn't the guy, and he was the guy who leapfrogged over Keegan Bradley. I think for his own, personal ego, and also to make life a lot easier on Keegan, I think he'd like nothing more to play really well in these first 2 events of the postseason and lock himself in. But it remains to be seen there.
Yeah, no, see where I'm at Ryder Cup standings right now, I kind of feel like top 10 is locked in. If you looked at the current rankings today, I think 1 through 10 is and should be on the team. And that includes Keegan. Keegan's in the 10 spot. I feel like he's deserved it. He has a win. He's got some top 10s. He's played pretty well. And he's just got the fire, right? And the fact that you were saying how he missed it 2 years ago, he kind of was snubbed. So here he has an opportunity to come back, play it, be the captain, be a hero. Grand stage, New York City, all that good stuff. So I like 1 through 10. Where I struggle with this list, I know we're going to dive into it even more, and I like that we're going to do some long shots, is who's going to be 11 and 12? Because that's like always the major debate every year. Do you look at a Cam Young who's in 15th? Do you look at guys that are trending? Do you look at the guys that were hot at the beginning of the year? They might be up there, but they fell off. Yeah. So that's like part of this process. I think it's pretty cool. But I've got a pretty, by the end of this episode, I'm going to give you my top 12. I'll give you those 2 picks who I think should be on this team. No
okay.
doubt.
Well, I would say I agree for the most part. The only thing I don't agree with is that the 10 is a lock when it comes to Keegan Bradley. I think there's still a lot of debate that's going to go on between him and his vice captains. He does have an incredible staff of vice captains. You got Jim Furyk, Kevin Kisner, Webb Simpson, Brandt Snedeker, and Gary Woodland. And I think it's really going to come down to whether Keegan truly feels that he can put his best self forward as a player, of whether he puts himself on that team. Because keep in mind, even though he sits at the 10 spot, based on what we see here, where there's a lot of guys who could make the team, him playing at the end of the day bumps somebody else off this team. And with so much talent, as we're going to kind of go through here, sitting in that, 10, well, Keegan's in 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 spot. Even now, like I said, with a guy like Cam Young pushing his way up. Let's see, Cam now sits at 15th, right? This is where I think Keegan now has to weigh the answer, saying like, am I better served to just take on full captain's duty and give a guy like that the option to be on the team? So I think that's where it's going to kind of weigh in. But where I sit on the other side of the fence is me personally is just thinking, why not? Why not play? Right. Now, I understand, like, and it's very hard for me to fully put myself in his shoes because I'm not a player. I don't know what it takes for these guys to get mentally ready to perform at their best and compete. Where I can empathize and sympathize with Keegan is the fact that the amount of obligations for a captain has gone through the roof in modern day for Ryder Cups.
Totally.
It's not like back when, Arnold Palmer did it, 30, 40, whatever many years ago it was. He's going to have all types of press obligations. They're going to be getting him all over the place. He does that for him, and I think it's a personal decision he has to make. Does that take him out enough that he's not able to practice the way he wants to prepare? Does that, all those types of things? I think that's what needs to weigh. But when it comes to, if he can switch all of that and put all of that aside and lock in when he plays, I think he can still do the dual role. I think he can certainly, make the selections and the pairings as needed before he goes out there on the field. And then once he goes out on the field, having such a deep bench when it comes to vice captains.
Totally.
I think that they can handle what needs to be handled while he's out there. So I think that's not the issue at hand. I think the issue at hand for him, and he's the only one who can make this decision ultimately, is whether he feels that he can perform his best while also having all of the duties that lead up to it and how exhausting that can be. Because if you look at him as a player, I don't think that there's many guys right here outside of the top 6 who have a better resume. Keegan's got 1 win this year, 5 top 10s. He's 10th in the Ryder Cup points. In the FedEx Cup points and 10th in Ryder Cup points. Mm-hmm. If he wasn't a captain, if we were like wave a magic wand and we could forget for a second that he was even a captain, then he's one of those no-brainer picks for me. It's just whether or not he feels like he can handle all of the responsibilities.
Yeah, and me saying that he's a lock and he's going to be on the team is me just like guessing he's going to play. Obviously, it's going to come down to him, but you're right. The vice captains there are of high caliber. They'll be able to run the show while he's doing it. They're seasoned vets. They've been there before. Furyk, Stricker, those guys.
Yeah.
So Kisner, there's going to be guys there that can help Keegan along. You're right. It is a lot of responsibility. Is he going to be able to perform at the highest level? Who knows? But I think he should be on the team. And I think if he's on the team, that dude's got so much fire.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to kill it as a player and kill it as a captain. So,
and I don't read Keegan as the type of guy who's going to make a decision based on his own personal agenda.
Right.
I think his decision will be made based on how he thinks, well, what will be best for the team, right? Mm-hmm. So if he feels like he's going to be someone that's going to put them in the best position to win, then I think he's going to play. I think one thing that's got to be weighing on the back of his mind, though, is at his age, and he's playing incredible at his age, mm-hmm. I have to think that somewhere in his mind, he's got to be thinking, if I perform well here, like even as a captain, he could possibly have another at bat at some point in his life as a Ryder Cup captain again. Look at Luke Donald on the other side. He's been the captain now twice, right? Yep. So there's a precedent for that. He could be captain again. I think this is his very last shot as a player. So I think that's got to weigh in his mind somewhere and being like, hey, I can captain the ship again, and I could get the full experience of being captain and being off the field. In a future iteration of the Ryder Cup, but this is probably my last real great shot with all the up and coming young talent of being a player. But and so I think he's not human if that's not in his mind somewhere.
Yeah.
But I truly do believe, and I think that's why he's going to make such a great captain, is that he's going to do what's best. And he's going to make that decision. And I think it's going to boil down to, and we'll be watching and waiting on some of the interviews that come out to see what he says about this. But I think it's going to really boil down to him saying whether or not he feels like he can perform as a player at his best with all of those responsibilities.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to see. I know we're all going to be waiting on the edge of our seats in the next couple of weeks to see if he goes with that. Keegan's captain's picks are in, and one of them is him. It's crazy,
Yeah.
but it's exciting. It makes for exciting golf news. Regardless, if he chooses to play, great. If he chooses not to play, I still think there's a couple of guys on that bubble that can slot in. Leading up to this conversation, I was going to come in here saying, send Cantlay to the hills this year, like they sent JT last year at President's Cup. Like, you didn't have a great year. You're not going to be on the team. Go figure it out off season, come back stronger. That's what JT did. Cantlay had a horrible year, I think, for his standards.
Yeah.
So how can you put a guy like that on the team, even though he's got a pretty decent Ryder Cup resume and experience? I think, between him, Brian Harman, another guy with experience. So, like, that bubble's hot right now. But I kind of feel like, for me, honestly, McNeely and Cam Young, if Cam Young finishes in the top 5 in this next playoff this week, if he stays hot, I think you go with Maverick McNeely. I believe he's 11 in the bubble on the standings, correct?
Yeah.
I think you go Mav because if you look at him this year, I know he was hot earlier on and he's kind of fell off, but I still think he's a good pick. And then if Cam Young stays hot, I think that's my 11-12 right there.
Yeah, well, one thing I will say is that I think, and we'll move on to each pick individually, but just wrapping up on with Keegan, I think one good thing that Keegan has done for himself, one huge service, is his play has spoke for itself to the point where even if he does make that announcement, that kind of historic announcement that one of his captain's picks is himself, he's justified it through his play, and I don't see anyone who can debate or be disappointed or upset in any way with that pick. If he had sat right at, outside where he had to bump somebody, I said this, when we started talking about this, when there was even the potential of him being a playing captain, 2-3 months ago, I said, if he's 13, 14, I do not see him bumping someone. I think, though, he's put himself in a great position where there's no one who can argue with that pick. He's played his way into the 10th spot and possibly even higher as we get into the FedEx Cup playoffs. So I think, if anything, it might go the other way. There might be some people who are disappointed that he doesn't pick himself, but he is in a great spot to allow himself to do that pick from a standpoint, again, what he thinks is best for the team.
By the way, one thing that I don't know if people know this, that you can still accumulate Ryder Cup points, especially Team USA, through the first 2 weeks of the FedEx Cup.
Yes, correct.
Right. So a win by Keegan, is he bumped up to into the qualifying automatically?
It's totally possible.
Right. I don't know if one win will get him up there from 10 to 6, but
it's possible. I mean, where he's at 10, it's possible. I mean, if nothing else, a win and a second place finish. I mean, if he goes on a tear, it's possible. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Ultimately, there's not a lot of time left with only 2, events left.
Right.
But in a way, there's also kind of a lot of time left. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody goes crazy hot, this conversation can change. But let's talk about where we stand right now. Yeah. So you got the 2 that I think that are not necessarily something we have to dive too deep into, because I think they're on the team one way or another as captain's picks, is Justin Thomas and Colin Morikawa.
Yep.
They sit at 7 and 8. It would be a complete upset. It would be there would have to be something dramatic for one of them to be overlooked at this point. Their play is there. Yeah. They've proven it with points. They're right on the bubble of being automatic qualifiers. And as I said, Justin Thomas may be an automatic qualifier. So I'm not going to spend too much time there. I think those guys are a lock. Let's move on. The next one, Ben Griffin, who made some of his own waves in the past week or so. And I think it's in a way, some people are just looking for something to like twist his words a little bit. Yep. Catching some headlines talking about, if you take it out of context, him saying that, he can beat Rory, he can beat Jon Rahm. He was also talking about him personally wanting to get his play to a level where he could beat those guys. But the headline grabbers will do what they will. Sure. And, stirring up a little bit of controversy. But this is one thing I like about Ben. He has been very vocal and very single-minded focused on making the Ryder Cup team. And that's the type of fire and passion that you want to see of a guy on the team. You want a guy who is itching to be there, who wants the big stage, who wants the big match against Rory McIlroy. That to me is something that as a captain's pick, I would be looking at and saying, like, especially Keegan, a guy who knows and understands that fire, seeing that in Ben Griffin. But he also, again, is backing it up with play this year. So he's got 2 PGA Tour wins this season. One of the few guys on this entire list with more than one win. He's got a 1 runner-up, 8 top 10s. He's currently 6th in the FedEx Cup points. I would be shocked, currently sitting at 9th. If he's not a captain's pick, I would be completely blown away. I think that this is a guy who is one of the first, picks out of Keegan's mouth when it comes to those captain's picks.
Yeah, I think he is a lot. Basically, the numbers you just rattled off. He's had a quality year. He's made a name for himself. New York stage, I think he's going to do well, man. I really think he's going to do well. This will be his rookie year. I mean, you're going to have rookies on a Ryder Cup team almost every year.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. So I think this is his time.
And you said New York stage. I'm going to tell you to put a pin in that. Hold that one under your hat, because when we come back to Cameron Young, I think there's a real big reason why, even though he sits at 15th, he could be very well in the mix because of his own association,
Absolutely.
Not only with New York, but with Bethpage Black.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that, but let's keep moving down the list. Keegan Bradley, we already went over, sits in the 10th spot. Again, record kind of speaks for itself. If you had just kind of redacted his name and you didn't know who it was, and you were just looking at guys and their track records in that, top 12, I think Keegan Bradley is like, oh, I got to put that guy on the team. Again, it all boils down to what he's comfortable with his obligations as captain. But another name that you mentioned, Maverick McNeely.
Yeah.
A little bit,
no wins.
It's a tough one.
Right.
I think he, to me, is one of those guys who's very firmly on the bubble.
Yep.
Because of current form. So he does have 6 top 10s this season. This, again, is how he's earned those points. 1 runner-up. He's 11th in FedEx Cup points. And to his credit, we always look Ryder Cup, you look big stage. What can these guys do on the big stage? Well, the biggest stage of all, of course, is the majors. He made the cut in all 4 majors. He has not, however, done much since the Memorial.
Yeah.
His record, other than, making cuts, kind of that journeyman type of thing, making cuts, not making waves.
Yep.
If I would say anything.
Yep.
And it would concern me that he's a spot that is very fragile right now, that a guy who's in current form might be a better selection.
That's true.
It would be tough, because he did put together a pretty strong season overall, holistically. It'd be tough to kind of sit him in that way, but this is where, as a Ryder Cup captain, you got to make some tough decisions. I've always wondered, and I would love insight into this from the Ryder Cup captains, how much they weigh, success early season versus current form.
100%.
Because you got a lot of these guys who stack up points, January through April, and then don't do anything in May, June, July, and they start to they're falling out of form. How much of that is what you earned then? Did you earn your spot versus current form? I would love to know that formula.
We kind of know what Zach Johnson's formula was, right? Because he had Lucas Glover, who won twice at the end of the year, snubbed him. And then I think Keegan won towards the end of the year, or closer in the summer, and he was snubbed. So I guess it's individual, how these captains put current form just based, or maybe they put more emphasis on Ryder Cup experience, which kind of brings me to the next guy is Brian Harman, right?
But that's the thing. So, there's a lot to factor in. Ryder Cup experience, you always want a good balance of veterans and rookies. You think who plays well together. Harmon we're getting into here as a lefty. How does that set up for the course? How does that set up for some of the matches that might play into it? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot there, but I think, and you're right, every captain is going to be different, and for all the reasons that we all know, and it's been beat to death at this point, Zach Johnson was highly, highly questioned for those picks that he did make. But for me, I think if I was sitting in that seat, and I have 0 qualification to sit where Keegan's sitting right now, but if I was, I think I would put current form in my formula at 60% or more of what goes into my pick, because we all know golf. You know what I mean? Form comes and goes, and just because you were great in the beginning of the season doesn't mean you've got it right now. I would rather pick a guy who's really hot and is playing, trending in the right direction, playing his best golf, than a guy who won early season and has been struggling since.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But let's look at that. So Brian Harman is your true bubble boy. He's number 12. 50-50
coin flip between him and McNeely. I don't know if you stick both of them on the team, but he was my coin flip, and I kind of ruled him out earlier, saying go Maverick, then Cameron. But
okay, so with Brian, what you got is he's got 1 win this season, but again, came way back in April. 4 top 10s.
How did he do in the majors? Do we know?
I don't have his full major
Yeah.
record right here, but I will tell you he's 12th in Ryder Cup points. So, like, again, putting together a strong season, but there's other factors to it. There is the fact that he's older. I will say off the top of my head, he did do well at the Open Championship. I forget if it was a top 10 finish, but I remember he was in the hunt. Seems to be like very much a specialist for that, after winning the Open a couple of years ago by quite a few strokes. But here too, 38 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Would be, if not the oldest, one of the oldest guys on the team. And I think this is where a lot of it's relationship driven. I think you're going to get a guy like Keegan who's going to be calling these guys. And there's going to be stuff that we're never even privy to. Him picking up the phone. How are you feeling?
Yeah.
What do you give me your honest, unfiltered. We all want what's best for the team. How are you feeling? How's the game feel right now? How are you feeling physically? Do you feel like you could keep up with competition it's funny at your age. He's not that old, but you know what I'm saying? 38 years old.
How do you feel at Bethpage? Another question.
Exactly.
Because that's a whole nother beast.
How's Bethpage set up for your game, for your eye? So I think there's a lot of that might go into it. But here's a guy that, again, I don't think you're going to see as big of a controversy that we saw 2 years ago when Keegan was overstepped for Justin Thomas. I think whether it be McNeely, Harman, or Novak, which we're going to talk about in a second, if any one of those guys does not make the team, I don't think it's he was snubbed. Headline. I think it was just any of those guys kind of know that they're in the mix, they're in the discussions, but they're far from locked in.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you know what's so interesting? This whole time we're talking about the USA team. I think a lot of the emphasis on the pick can also be on what the European team is doing. And I'm looking at their roster right now, and I don't even think they have as many rookies. I mean, guys like Rory, and I think Robbie McIntyre was on the team before, unless I'm thinking of, I think he was on the team. It's Fleetwood, Hatton, Shane Lowry, Justin Rose, Aberg, Hovland, Matt Wallace, Matt Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Here's the question, though. Jon Rahm is 23rd. Is he on the team?
Yeah.
Does he get picked? That's a whole nother story.
And you got a very strong team overall there. And you got a team that's also, don't forget, very similar lineup of names who won 2 years ago.
Right.
They mesh well together. They play well together. And I do have some of those that I want to run through too here in a second.
Yeah, so just running through that, I wanted to just make that point because maybe that kind of tilts the hand towards Harmon. Maybe they go towards more experience, or Keegan does. I don't know.
I think they're fortunate in that with or without Harmon, they've still got the U.S. team still has a lot of veterans and experience on the team. Even now, we're thinking guys like Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler. These guys are veterans now. They've now been around it long enough. They're not. I no longer consider these guys young guns who are going to need someone out there to hold their hand and show them how to navigate through their first Ryder Cup. So there's plenty. I don't think it's where they need to hunt out veterans to help get these guys through at this point.
Okay.
Rounding that out though, Andrew Novak, he's just beyond that cut line right now. He's in the 13th spot. 1 win, 4 top 10s. Again, early season. Recent form has been rough.
Yeah.
I just don't see this guy making the team.
I don't see him sticking out.
No top 10 since April.
Yeah.
Not a single top 10 since April.
I think a Sam Burns has a better chance than Novak at this point.
Yeah.
Sam Burns, if he wins this week, I could see him making the team. And he sits at 16th. I think a Novak kind of rekindle, he's going to have to make some noise and win an event, maybe win both playoff events. Other than that, I can't see him making it.
And that's the pure nature of golf is that anything can happen at any time. And somebody could click, the flat stick gets crazy hot, and all of a sudden they win once or twice of these next 2 events. Who knows? But based on the information we have now, I just think that his form has gone the opposite direction. Yep. I don't see that one. Similarly, as you brought up earlier, 14th spot, Patrick Cantlay. This is, so not Cantlay.
It's better. I'm saying he's better than this.
Yes.
Yeah, this was a bad year for him.
Though I think the perfect reference you made is like Justin Thomas, the way we saw him turning around. I think that Cantlay's got a lot more, lot more juice that he could squeeze out of it, in future seasons. Yeah. I think he's got to find something. But for him to have he used to, Mr. Automatic only a couple seasons ago, just 3 top 10s this season. only one top 10 finish since May. So he hasn't even been really in the mix most of the summer. I don't see it for him.
I'm curious if it had something to do. Didn't he pick up Joe LaCava like a year or so ago? And I just don't know if they've clicked since. I don't know. I don't know the exact stats on that, but maybe something changed.
Right. All I know is that
it was a couple years ago, LaCava. That's right. He had him at the Ryder Cup. And all
his record and his form and Hatgate.
Hatgate.
Remember? His record and his form are just not enough right now to get him over that line to say the old argument that Zach Johnson made for Justin Thomas, like, how do you have a Ryder Cup without JT? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you have a Ryder Cup without Patrick Cantlay? I think you can at this point right now. How do you have
it without Spieth? We are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I always thought that years ago without Patrick Reed, you know?
Right. And then that last one, let's go to 15, and then I want to talk about some wild cards, some longer shots, and if they even really have a shot or should be in the conversation. But Cameron Young, here's a guy who, you always notice like he's got that potential to turn that corner. And you wonder, has this gotten the monkey off his back? He finally gets his win. He gets his win at the Wyndham just, this past weekend. He's a guy with a ton of power. He's a guy who's got 5 top 10s this season. He finished tied for 4th at the US Open, an incredibly difficult track. He's got, if you want to put it that way, like a little bit of experience playing in these kind of team match play environments with, playing now in the TGL.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can make that reference yet. We'll see, but I may be stretching. But one thing that I think is going to be looked at is he is a local guy, right? He grew up playing the game here, and he won the New York State Open at Bethpage Black at age 17.
Yeah.
So he's got a win here. He on this course, it's a course that he knows well. I'm sure it's a course that he could lend a lot of knowledge to for the rest of the team.
Sure.
Again, having the local crowds behind him, being a New York guy, I think that this is if he puts together one more strong performance in these next 2, I think that he, for me, leapfrogs at least Harman, Novak, Cantlay, and he pops up in that possible 12th spot. And going back to what I said earlier, if Keegan decides to take his name out of the ring, to withdraw his name as a player, that to me kind of opens up an additional spot where now you could mix in Cameron Young and still keep right at the end like a Harman or flop in. Again, Novak I don't see happening, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
It does open up the additional spot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got you. It's going to be interesting, but I'll tell you what, I've never won a golf tournament in my life. Neither of you, right?
Right.
Not that I know of, right? And I got to think that if you win on a golf course, the confidence is always going to be there. And I know Keegan knows that. And New York guy, his father's the head pro at Sleepy Hollow right here. New York crowd going to come out, his family support him, energy. It's going to be electric. I think Cam Young needs to be on this team. So I'm hoping he continues to stay hot and he makes it. He just has to back it up with a good performance this week and show it's not a one and done.
That's it. Let's break there. Let's do a quick word from our sponsors. And I want to talk about some long shots, and I want to flip-flop and talk a little bit about that European team.
All right, guys, you got to check out the FootJoy Premier golf shoes. They're one of my favorite golf shoes on the market. And not only are they clean and classy, but they're totally comfortable, and they have the details of that iconic look that players are looking for. Style and comfort. And they come with the VersaTrax Plus outsole. It's engineered with those traction elements to create an outsole that's perfect for any type of on-course performance. As you're swinging through the golf ball, you want that traction. It's so important. And the guys at FootJoy, they have nailed it. They've nailed that comfort. They've got the OrthoLite Eco Plush Fit Bed. I love saying that, to ensure all-day comfort. And it's key. You guys are walking courses. You're going on golf trips. You're walking 36 in a day. You're just out there on your feet, so you need comfort. And these are the shoes for you. So check out the entire lineup. I say the entire lineup because there's so many. The colorways, the patterns, the leathers, everything. Go check it out. FootJoy.com. Pick yourself up a pair today.
All right. One name that we've got to talk about here is Brooks Koepka. I think one thing that's difficult is obviously the guys who are on LIV are, they're really their only chance to make any points right now as it currently stands is in majors. So, here too, like these guys are going to be way down the list. Like, for example, Koepka's 76th.
Yep.
you have to think like if a guy like Koepka was just playing regularly on the tour, he'd probably be somewhere in the 20s and be able to be a little bit more in the conversation without it seeming like such a long shot. And he's another guy who is just like, he's always going to be mentioned right now because of how he's a rise to the occasion type of guy. He's a powerhouse when it comes to these types of like international types of events. You think about, Ryder Cups, you think about majors, but he's just not himself this season. He just isn't.
Yeah, no.
Because for a guy who's a major specialist, he missed the cut in 3 out of 4 majors this year. He's got no wins on LIV this year.
No, he withdrew from an event on LIV.
Dude, he's got no top 10s on LIV this year.
Struggling.
This
is not his year. He's not. I don't think he's definitely not the same Brooks who won at PGA at Bethpage years ago.
Yep.
That's not the game you're going to see. I think Brooks is a total miss for this one. I think that's a 0.0001% chance he makes the team.
Right. Because as much as, you can make that stretch and talk about the win and we, talk about just like we said with Cam Young, we're coupling the fact that he's got that pedigree of winning at Bethpage Black, but he also has the form. Koepka just does not. And you just can't make the case for it. But it gets to that same argument going back to like with Zach Johnson saying like, how could you have a Ryder Cup team without Justin Thomas? It's like, it seems kind of funny, like having a Ryder Cup team, a U.S. Ryder Cup at Bethpage without Brooks Koepka and without the next guy we're going to talk about, which is Jordan Spieth, right? 27th. Jordan is a guy who, lots of experience, has provided us with so many fireworks through the years at, playing in these Ryder Cups. Would bring a ton of, level-headedness, would bring a ton of veteran experience to the team, but it's just not there. He's searching this year again. 4 top 10s, just working, trying to find it. His last top 10, though, was way back the first week in June at the Memorial. He did make the cut at the last 2 majors, but again, he made the cut out of 3 out of 4 majors, but it's just not there.
Yeah.
I would almost rather see a guy like, and I know the reasons you wouldn't take like a guy who could be in the conversation and make him a vice captain, because you make those picks early. It almost feels like you're taking a guy out of the mix, out of the team or too early, where it's like, hey, you got the whole season, you could win something. But here's a guy who I think would make an incredible vice captain.
I think so.
I mean, imagine a world where you could kind of add them on late, but imagine having Koepka and Spieth as vice captains and bringing them there for all of that fire and knowledge and veteranship, but just not the current form to be out there actually swinging the sticks.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
I think even Jordan said it this week at the Wyndham. He had an interview and he said like next year he thinks is going to be his comeback year, the way he's feeling. So I hope we see a healthy Spieth next year because he's great to watch, and he'd be awesome on the Ryder Cup. And by the way, some local breaking news for us here as we're talking live on this show. I just got in my inbox our 2025 Ryder Cup media credentials. So we will be there.
Beautiful.
Okay, we will be on site during Ryder Cup, hopefully grabbing a couple interviews maybe. We're going to see what we'll be able to do to bring you guys. So stay tuned for that. So that's exciting. That's cool. But
it's in our backyard here. So
I know.
We got to be there. We got to be there. Let's flip the script real quick, and I want to just talk about the European team. I think here you're going to see less debate. I think here you're going to see less movement. To me, it really comes down to the guys that are currently 11, 12, 13, and which one of those guys I think is going to sit for Jon Rahm.
Yeah.
Because I think Rahm's on the team. Now,
really?
I definitely think Rahm's on this team. Let me put it this way. First and foremost, keep in mind that with the recent kind of rules changes and things lightening up, it was the European team was even more strict when it came to letting guys from LIV on in prior years. Remember, on the American side, it's the PGA, not the PGA Tour, that is the ones who are basically putting that team forward. Mm-hmm. So a PGA Tour suspension due to being on LIV does not necessarily leak into the Ryder Cup, right? Other than the fact that qualifying points and stuff like that. The European team was a little bit stronger in their relationship with the DP World Tour. But now, as long as you maintain DP World Tour status and your fines are paid up, these guys are fined for when they're not played, they're eligible. I don't see that being a problem, whether Rahm pays the fines out of his own pocket or whether LIV fronts the money for him.
Right. Right.
The thing that I'm looking at here, and just like the kind of the case to be made with Jon Rahm is first of all, he's not the dominant Jon Rahm that we've seen. We've seen frustration in him in the majors. He's not the guy that we saw 2 years ago, right before he went to live. No doubt about it. But he still made the cut in all 4 majors. And he continues to perform week in and week out on live. He's now made, he's setting a record that'll probably stand as forever as this new league emerges. 21 consecutive top 10 finishes on live. Now he's got no wins in 2025, but he sits firmly in second place for the overall for individual, right behind somebody that no one's catching, which is Neiman. So
right,
he's your number 2 guy on live. He's a guy who's got the experience, and I'll go back to it. Remember when I think a lot of the pressure where things started to change and lighten up for live was when you had your kind of headline guy, Rory McIlroy, saying he wanted Rahm on that team. He wanted him on that team, and he pulled hard for him. I can't imagine, as I look towards the bottom half of this, which is the guys in the 11 and 12 spots are Matt Wallace and Matt Fitzpatrick. Number 13 is Thomas Dietrich. I can't imagine not one of those guys not sitting to slot in Rahm.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm looking up just some reports. I mean, they're the 6 wild card spots for Luke Donald right now. The rumors are to be Jon Rahm, Ludwig Aberg, Victor Hovland, Justin Rose, and get this, potentially Sergio Garcia. Now, I know he's like a Ryder Cup legacy.
Yeah.
Excellent record. But
another guy I think would be better served as a vice captain.
Absolutely. I think he's not. Yes, correct.
But look, here's the thing. This is where I look at this team holistically. You got your 6 locks, right? Then I'm gonna even say 7 is right on that. I feel like 7's a lock spot. I think something would have to be very dramatic to take the guy in 7 when it's on the U.S. team or the European team and skip over him.
Mm-hmm.
Where I start to see where guys start to get in the mix on the bubble. Justin Rose 8. This is his current standing. Ludwig Aberg 9th. Victor Hovland 10th. I think those guys are all locks. I think all those guys are rise to the occasion Ryder Cup guys. Even Justin Rose at his age just brings the fire every single time in a Ryder Cup. I can't imagine sitting those guys. Now, you look at the 11 and 12. So here's where I see the biggest hole. Matt Wallace. He's got a top 3 finish at the 3M Open, but otherwise, not a whole lot of success lately.
Yeah.
Again, another guy, similar to what we reviewed on the U.S. team, more success early in the season, but whether it's on the DP World Tour or whether it's on the PGA Tour appearances, not a whole lot. A lot of his points were earned early in the season, and I think that no one is going to debate you if you sit him in place of Jon Rahm.
Yeah.
I don't see this being a Justin Thomas, situation where it's like, the headlines is that he got burned. I don't see it. Number 12, Matt Fitzpatrick. Here's a guy that I do see you putting on the team.
100%.
He's got trending in the right direction. He's got top 10s in each of his last 4 PGA Tour starts. So he's putting together the case of saying current form and having that experience. Like he's a veteran to have on that team. I think he brings a lot of the type of knowledge and energy that team is going to want. So I could see him being there. But then number 13, Thomas Dietrich. He won the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Again, early season performance, but really not in good form as of late. So if you just took 11, 12, 13, for me, I just go, and let's say I've only got like the 2 spots, 11 and 12. Yeah. I go Matt Fitzpatrick, Jon Rahm. That's it.
Scary looking team.
It's a great looking team.
But
I don't see, and you guys weigh in the comments, I don't see a world where Jon Rahm's not on that team.
Yeah, you're making more of a case of it. At first I was like, no way, but when you put it together like that, especially talking about Matt Wallace and his recent, form and play, yeah, how can you not have a Rahm? It's true.
You can't. You again, like you have to look to where he, his performance where he's playing, which is on live, and he's top 10 every single week. He's always in the mix. You could make an argument. It's kind of like the days of Tiger and Phil. Like if if Neiman didn't have the season that he had, this breakout 5-win live season, then I think that you see, Rahm getting a win or two this season on live, and again, making the cut in all 4 majors. So I don't see as much drama going on the European side, and I think they're happy for that.
Yeah, right.
I think they want to lock their team in and gel and go out there and do what they did 2 years ago and just upset the U.S. team, and I think that they've got a very good chance of doing it. Right now, I look at these 2 lineups, and my money is 50-50 right now.
It's tough.
It's 50-50, and if I give any edge, I think it's to the U.S. team on the home field advantage. The home field advantage, I think, is going to be important. It always proves to be important in these Ryder Cups.
Yeah.
So there's a lot left to be done here, a lot left that can happen, but we've only got 2 events left. So if there are those bubble boys we were talking about, they better do something quick.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you right now, I'm like 60-40 Euro. If I was a betting man today, just guys like Hatton, when Justin Rose shows up to play, especially for Ryder Cups, can't beat him. Rory.
Lowry.
Yeah.
It's a great team.
I mean, it's a great team. And yeah, it's going to be really tough. I mean, Hovland could show up and just go off. It's going to be hard.
But they got to get through Scotty Scheffler. They got to get through Bryson DeChambeau. They got to get through Xander Schauffele, JJ Spawn.
Henley's one of the best players on the planet right now.
This could be, especially at that venue, at Bethpage Black, one of the hardest courses in the world.
Yeah.
This could be
a great
Ryder Cup that we talk about for years and years to come.
Yep.
So if we missed any long shot names, just let us know in the comments of anybody you think that might make some real big waves, but they've got to bump some big names to get in there. Lot to keep an eye on. We'll keep watching this as it unfolds these next couple of weeks. Really excited for this big Ryder Cup. Guys, make sure that you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you in the next one.